Happy New Year, Janice.
Happy New Year, Anthony.
Actually, I'm not sure if this is airing well after New Year's, but this episode is about Solo Agers. Please make these 7 New Year resolutions for 2021. So these are the 7 new resolutions from your favorite Solo Ager experts who we've spoken to in the past, and they were kind enough to share their thoughts on what to sort of map out for your upcoming New Year. So let's just jump right into this list of 7 resolutions. Okay. First, we have Joy, author of Who Will Take Care of Me When I'm Old? Great book. And her first resolution tip is to learn more about shared housing. This is what she plans to do, or what she wants to advise her readers to do in 2021. So Solo Agers should really learn more about shared housing. Well, first, let's talk about what that is. I like to sum it up in 2 words. Golden girls.
Yes.
So it's where you don't go into a facility so much as it can be a less formal way, roommates, or a what's the word? Not a
Like a house sharing, or
yeah, but sometimes you have a couple who runs the house that has the Solo Agers as the residents.
oh,
As opposed to like a
right.
a huge hospital system running it, right? But in either case, it's much more intimate. You're in a house or a smaller environment, and it's much more cozy. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
And these kinds of situations we may see an increase in popularity next year. So keep an eye out for it, because if anything, last year probably reminded a lot of us of how important social interaction is. If you catch my drift.
Yep. Definitely.
So, I mean, assuming everyone's feeling okay and feeling safe enough to be around each other, which I'm pretty sure will be the case. I think people are really going to want to be around each other.
Right. See real live people.
Yeah, right.
Real life.
So Joy, what Joy wants to do is she plans to really dive into making sure she understands for her, and she recommends that you do this for yourself. You understand why shared housing works in general, and why it may not be the best option for you or for anyone else. So just really explore that option, because it's something that's going to probably take off in the next year and the years to come.
Interesting. Joy's second resolution was to be more aware of the full responsibility of pet ownership. So you were speaking of 2020 and the interesting world that we lived in, right? And a lot of people added pets.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 2 minutes on social media will show you that everyone got a new dog or cat or, something, because of what you were saying. They didn't have a lot of social interaction, so the pet took over. But you need to know the extent of what it takes to care for this furry family member, not just financially, but when you're, getting a little bit older, it might be harder. You have to walk a dog and pick up after a dog and feed a dog. So you kind of have to know what is entailed long run with your pet, financially. Maybe it's a good time this year to explore a pet trust. Do you want to explain a little bit more what a pet trust is?
Sure. I'm not a fan, but I'll explain what they are, and then I'll explain why I'm not a fan. A trust, like for anyone, is a vehicle where instead of giving money outright to somebody when you die, instead of saying I give Janice $100,000 when I die, instead I give it to an entity called a trust that is there to manage the money for Janice, probably for the duration of her lifetime, and then when Janice dies, it goes to charity, right? Something like that.
Right.
I just don't think those are necessary for pets. I mean, I know I think it was Leona Helmsley, or one of those kind of tycoons in the 80s who set the trend because she left a lot of money to her cats or something like that.
A lot of money, right? Wasn't it? Yeah.
Dude, I mean, that's not who you want to be associated with.
Right.
I'm fairly confident you're able to find somebody who you trust to care for your furry one, and then just bump up their share. I mean, if you're that worried that they're not going to actually spend the money on the care of the pet, then it's probably not the person you want to take care of your
right.
pet.
It's probably not the one you want to give your little Fido to, right? If they're not going to care for them.
Oh, and so one other reason is the trusts have a cost. I mean, whether it's an attorney or an accountant, there will be an annual cost, and it's probably not worth it. I mean, if you're really, really loaded and you want to really make sure Fido, has exactly his, I don't know, lean cuisine or whatever the dogs eat. I don't really know the names of these things. Then I guess, but yeah, just leaving an extra lump sum to the person you've entrusted is probably good enough. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Would you do a pet trust, Janice? Is that something you're
So
to?
I love my dog very, very much, but no, definitely not. I would first leave, children and spouses, and I would probably just find somebody who would love the dog as we do. But you also have to think too, if you have a trust that's set up for how many years, the pets don't last that long. I know it's sad to say, but I don't know if I'd set all that up if there's,
Yeah, you can't amortize the cost over that many years because pets don't live that long. So yeah,
right. And I say that, but I love my dog, but I think there are better ways to do that than a pet trust.
Okay, next we have some tips or resolutions, from Sara Geber, one of our great guests from one of our prior podcasts on the essentials of retirement planning for solo agers. Sarah's just quite an authority in that area. So her first resolution is to, and this is, kind of in my wheelhouse, but to review and update your planning documents. She specifically points to reviewing and updating your power of attorney and advance directives. And her POV, her point of view is especially if you haven't done it in 5 years or more. I know it's kind of a blah resolution, like review your power of attorney. But it is
super
necessary.
Fun.
I actually use the 4-year rule, not the 5-year rule, just because it's easier to, connect it to the Olympics or an election or something like that. And I just kind of have an easier mental reminder. But yeah, you might as well include in that not just your powers of attorney and healthcare directives, but your will, trust, whatever estate plan you have. And think of this as like going to the dentist. Nobody loves it, but you got to do it. So just take care of it.
Right. Just rip the Band-Aid and give it all a look over. And in the dentist defense, I actually love going to the dentist, but I know I'm few and far between. So
yeah, that's weird.
it is. I know, but that's okay. There's always one. Another resolution that she has is to have the conversation with your family and other loved ones. Again, not super fun, but important, right? And it doesn't have to be anything formal. You could just be talking over coffee. What are your wishes for end of life? If nobody really knows, then you leave them guessing, right? Which definitely doesn't help, or they have to find your documents first. So just, have the conversation of, look, here it is. Maybe also your...
Yeah, it doesn't have to be I'm sorry to interrupt, but it doesn't only have to be with your loved ones and friends, because, at least in my experience with Solo Agers, the first to know, oh gosh, this is morbid, but the person who's first to know of your passing is usually someone like the doorman or your super.
Right.
So you want them to know who to call too. Yeah, building management.
Yeah. Yep. You want to know who your emergency contacts are. But like you said, unfortunately, the doorman maybe first know, because he sees you go out every morning to get your coffee and newspaper. And you just have that rapport. Maybe also throw in there your inheritance wishes. If you have some specific, charities or, talk about it. It doesn't hurt to talk about it. If they know your wishes, then it just becomes a little bit easier when that time comes.
Yeah. Also, it's also good to sort of set expectations. If you care about what happens after your passing, you don't want friends or family like fighting because they thought they were going to get something, but it turned out to be different. So sometimes it's useful to set those expectations. But if you don't want to deal with that during a lifetime, I'm not judging you. With it. That's fine.
No, no. But if it's something simple and you can just talk about it beforehand, it just makes it a little bit easier.
Right on. All right. Next, we're going to get our resolutions from Carol Marak. She has the Great Solo Says YouTube channel. We'll make sure to link all that in the description. So Carol's first resolution is to, and by the way, one of her resolutions is probably to finish her book. She's publishing a book this upcoming year. We're going to make sure to have her on and interview and talk about that book. But her first resolution is to shift uncertainty to predictable outcomes. And before I dive into Carol's resolution, I want to give a little shout out to Sarah for really taking on the tough and unpleasant resolutions.
Right. She's this is a pretty good list of some happy, some serious.
Yeah, exactly. it kind of reflects maybe their personalities or their approaches to
Right,
2021
right.
at least, right? The upcoming new year at least.
Yep. All equally as important. And when put all together, I mean, bam.
So, I'm sorry. So back to Carol's resolution. This is our 5th resolution on our list of 7 resolutions Solo Agers should make this year. Shift uncertainty to predictable outcomes. So just generally, I think we all agree that uncertainty can be stressful. So fix that.
Oh, I like that one.
If you're feeling kind of iffy or uncertain about the status of your health, fix that. Fix your diet, your exercise regimen, your routines. I mean, it's if your hip is popping or your knees are feeling a little creaky, Google or talk to your primary care physician. Figure out what you need to be doing on a daily basis to change your habits to just make it so that every morning you know that you're going to feel better. Hopefully.
Right.
And Carol also talks about building a team of support, right? If you're solo ager, there can be a little bit of stress from not knowing who will be where or who will take care of what, if things happen. She talks about something called a family of choice, which we've talked about in the past, which is great, where you're sort of building your family, air quotes, and not relying on just blood, basically. Like, oh, I do have a nephew, but I'm not sure I can rely on him.
No, I love the way she talks about that because your family can be anybody. You just can be your neighbor. Again, the doorman could be your family. Like it doesn't have to be anyone in particular. You could meet somebody, and when you're sitting on a park bench, I think she talks about this, and you just strike up a conversation, and that's just get out there.
Right on.
So number 6 from Carol, I like this one. Never buy into the idea that you are powerless. Yeah. Oh, she's awesome. So list 2 goals that you want to accomplish. They don't have to be big goals, right? You just 2 goals that you want to accomplish. Something that's been, on your mind. You say, I want to do this. Write it down and work towards it. And then find people and learn the skills and strategies to achieve those goals. So maybe it is talking to people more when you're out and about, making new friends. She does give some good tips for that. But just, learn and get out there and try to accomplish those goals. I like her attitude, right? She just is get out there, go do it. And this is how you meet people.
I feel like goals that encourage progress will be especially important. Excuse me. Next year, given that this past year, a lot of things were sort of frozen in time.
Right.
So really sort of jump-starting and getting back into the habit or just momentum of, hey, I am progressing as a human being. I am growing as I think it's super important. So yes, I love this resolution.
Yes. Yep. And I like that goals don't have to be very big. I mean, I'm one to write a list, and if something I did isn't on that list, I'll put it on the bottom and mark it off. Goals don't have to be big, like she says, but just get out there.
And I'm going to sort of thrust myself into the mix as one of the Solo Ager experts with Joy, Sara, and Carol. I hope they don't mind.
As you should, yes.
And my resolution will be to read more books and less news, air quotes.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. And here's why. I mean, books not everything is absolute. There are some books that can, not be so great for you either. But in general, books tend to be more educational and force you to sharpen your mind. The author of a book has usually spent a lot more time and effort into that final product versus a blog post or a news article that was spit out in the past hour
on the whim, right?
Poorly researched and just designed to inflame you.
No, that hasn't happened at all this year. I'm sorry.
Whereas books I don't think they're, just because of the way the incentives are lined up and the sort of the medium, it's not really designed to just, trigger all of your senses at once. It's really supposed to immerse you. Is that how you feel?
It definitely. And I feel like when you read a book, there's so much more research that's gone into it, and it's factual. And I mean, not all books, of course, but that if somebody writes about something, they have definitely researched that product or they're an expert on it.
And look, I'll be a little judgy here. If you're well read and you talk about books, you are much more fun to have a conversation with than somebody who talks about the news. I guarantee it. I mean,
oh, absolutely.
Who wants to sit around with somebody who just, repeats back what they saw on whatever news source,
That's right. Yep. And speaking of books, my grandmother, who lived till she was almost 98 years old, read one full book every day, almost 20,000 books, which is pretty cool. But man, she was sharp as a tack and could have a conversation with anyone and remembered all of those books. So you're right. Like she never watched TV or the news. She just read.
It does make you, I mean, I'm not trying to make it sound like you need to be some kind of Poindexter who's constantly quoting books.
No.
But it does just sort of, I don't know. It's good it's like a good vitamin for your brain.
Yes. And isn't that going back to what we just talked about a minute ago, having like a goal? You set a goal to read a book, maybe 2 books a year, if you're not into reading. There's a goal. Now you've just achieved it.
Oh, sorry. I'm going to go off on a tangent. And one of my tips that really helped me on reading books is to do not feel compelled to finish books.
Yes, that is a good point.
Because if you go in with that sort of compulsion, then it's that much harder to get started.
Yes.
But if you give yourself the freedom to put it down as soon as you lose interest, and pick it up again later if you want to, or just never pick it up again if it's completely lost you, that gives you this sort of mental freedom to try more and more books, if that makes sense.
That's a great point. I like that.
And then my last point on this, I know I'm harping on this, but what sounds more fun to you, Janice? Being part of a book club, from a social perspective and conversational perspective, what sounds more better, book club or news club?
Oh yeah, that's an absolute no-brainer. I'd go for the book club any day. I don't want to see the news on a daily basis, let alone I would much rather talk about a book or something more educational. You know what?
We all say it, but let's actually practice it and pick up a book or a library card. Totally, you don't have to spend a lot of money either. Libraries are great.
No, geez, yeah, you can rent whatever. And we do know of a book that talks about all of this that people can read, available on Amazon. I know, right? The Solo Ager plan. But I'm gonna say something about your books. Here's what I like about your books. I know you said you can put them down and you don't have to finish it, but you write your books short, sweet, to the point. Right? There's not a lot of extra fluff where you get stuck in there and you read, I've got to read this Solo Ager plan. It's going to take forever. Not really. Quick read. It's all right there and it breaks it down easily. That's why I enjoy your books, because they're easy reads. I hope that makes sense.
It makes total sense. Oh, yeah. I love that objective feedback. Totally.
Yeah. I mean, it's quick. It's easy. I mean, you don't feel like you've just gotten a college education reading it. You just feel like you are armed and you have some knowledge.
Cool. And that was my goal. So I appreciate that.
No, did good.
Cool. So I hope these resolutions help everyone. They actually help me. And I'm kind of thinking about which ones to, more firmly apply in my life. So,
Same.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Janice. As always, Happy New Year and good luck, deploying these strategies, and same to everyone listening. And we'll talk again soon.
Talk soon.
Bye now.